Hello and welcome to another lecture discussion in FSHN 101. Today we're going to be discussing soy products. And you may already know this, but soy products are so versatile. Not only do soy products help meet your nutritional needs by getting a lot of macronutrients in, like the lipids, the carbohydrates, and the proteins, as well as the micronutrients, they're also considered a functional food. And what that means is it has many benefits outside of just purely meeting your nutritional needs. Soy products offer alternatives to animal protein as well as dairy products. And things like tofu, soy milk, and soy sauce are common examples of soy products that you've probably already tried. We're going to discuss them in more detail today. And not only do they taste delicious, consumption of soy products can aid in preventing heart disease, help with good bone health, and even help decrease blood pressure. Let's start by discussing just soy in its native state. Oftentimes people refer to this as edamame. So if you have a relatively young soy plant that has the beans inside the pods, you can steam them, sprinkle a little salt on them, and have them as a fabulous appetizer. Here you can look at the nutrition facts panel, and you can see that this edamame is a great mixture of macronutrients as well as providing some much needed micronutrients. It's very high in protein. So with 18 grams of protein per 160 gram serving, you notice that we have a lot of protein in there to help meet your needs. Not only that, the protein that is in edamame is a fabulous mix of essential amino acids, meaning that it's a high quality protein. So you don't even have to complement it with other food sources to make sure that your protein needs are met. If you start at the top of the nutrition facts panel, you'll notice that we have ample amounts of total fat. And you might be concerned at first. However, if you look closer, you'll notice only a little bit of that total fat is saturated. Most of it is unsaturated fat, meaning that it can actually have some health benefits associated with consuming the edamame. And if we look at the carbohydrates, you'll notice it has ample amounts of dietary fiber, which means that that dietary fiber contains 0 calories per gram. It helps with healthy hang-up microflora, as well as your body's ability to exercise the intestinal tract. It slows glucose absorption in the bloodstream, and it allows for your body to slowly get the nutrients into itself in a way that is going to be beneficial. Additionally, this edamame is rich in vitamins and minerals. The edamame contains vitamin K, as well as minerals like calcium. But you'll notice that as we go on with this presentation, some other soy products actually have more calcium than the edamame because we may add calcium in the processing. Naturally, edamame has iron, potassium, manganese, as well as folate. Another product is soy sauce. This was discovered by fermenting fish with soybeans. It appeared in China more than 2,500 years ago, and it became prominent in Chinese Buddhist cuisine. So it's been around since the 7th century, and a Japanese Buddhist priest visited China, and they brought soy sauce back with them to Japan. So even though most people think of soy sauce as a primarily Japanese product, Chinese were the ones who started out having it in their native land. After the soy sauce slowly grew in popularity until it became popular in Japan, which was around 1254 AD. This is the origin of why we associate this product with Japanese culture. If we're looking at the nutrient components of soy sauce, here, just for discussion's sake, we have a 100-gram serving. Rarely will anyone consume 100 grams of soy sauce because 1 tablespoon of soy sauce equals 16 grams, but we did want you to see it in comparison to some other foods we've been talking about throughout the semester. The soy sauce, like we mentioned, is made from fermented soybeans and wheat. If you look at the essential components, it has a small amount of protein because, again, we're only going to be consuming a subset of this 100-gram serving. We have some carbohydrates. We have, like I said, a little bit of dietary fiber, a little bit of sugar. We'll have some starch, but you'll notice that it's very high in sodium. So if you're someone who is sodium responsive and struggling with hypertension, you may want to limit the soy sauce that you put on your foodstuffs. We do have, again, a little bit of calcium, some iron, and some potassium in our soy sauce as well. So generally speaking, the soy sauce is used to flavor our food rather than actually meeting our nutritional needs. When we look at soy sauce, it has a water content of about 65% and a water activity of 0.80. Despite appearing to be a high moisture soy product, soy sauce has a lower water activity than is really expected, and this is due to its very high salt content. The moisture content and water activity of soy sauce can be decreased further if it's dehydrated, so you may not realize that we actually have dehydrated soy sauce that you could potentially purchase. Soy sauce powder has a water content of 2.5%, so very, very, very low, and a water activity of 0.20, which gives this product a long shelf life. So let's test your knowledge. What is the water activity of soy sauce in liquid form? Is it 0.98, 0.20, 0.65, 0.80, or 0.90? And if you chose D, or 0.80, you are correct. Next, let's talk about tofu. Tofu is made by coagulating soy milk and adding some things in as well. The history is a little bit debated. One speculation is that Prince Louis invented it during the Han Dynasty to produce a dish that would give you immortality. That sounds pretty cool. But another proposition is that it was invented by a Chinese chef on accident. Other research highlights that the ancient Chinese visited Mongolian tribes to learn their ways of cheese making and applied it to soy milk, giving us tofu. The Mongolian theory is the most likely, but the first known production of tofu came around 206 to 220 BC. In modern times, the Japanese are credited with the mass production of tofu, and it started in the 8th century. So let's test your knowledge. What dynasty was tofu allegedly discovered in? The Ming Dynasty, the Qin Dynasty, Shang Dynasty, Sui Dynasty, or Han Dynasty? And if you said E, the Han Dynasty, you are correct. If we look at the nutrient components of tofu in an 81-gram portion size, you'll notice that again, a quarter of a block of tofu is about 81 grams, so this is going to be an appropriate portion size that you can compare across other foodstuffs. It only has 117 calories. So with that, it has lower calories, but we have some high nutrients in there. So this is going to be a nutrient-dense foodstuff. Like we mentioned before, it's made from soy milk, and it has many nutrients such as vitamins and minerals and very low calories. Its essential components are things like protein. It's very high in protein that contains all the essential amino acids. With its carbohydrates, we have only 2.3 grams of total carbohydrates, where most of that is made of dietary fiber. But it's also rich in important vitamins and minerals like calcium, iron, potassium, manganese, copper, and more. You'll notice that the calcium level is much higher than you find in the edamame. That's because calcium is added in some of the processing of this tofu. If we're wanting to safely store tofu, we need to first identify what type of tofu do you have. Tofu can actually range from a pudding-like consistency to very firm. Regardless, you don't want to store it on a shelf, you want to store it in the refrigerator if it is this fresh tofu. It can last for a week this way, and you want to keep it in the refrigerator to maintain that soft, spongy texture. Store it in a resealable container, and you can put the tofu submerged in liquid or water. You can also freeze certain types of tofu. This works best for firm or extra firm tofu, and freezing it can allow the texture to become more smooth or spongy. So if you're wondering if your tofu has gone bad, when it's stored in water, has the water become murky? If it has, you might want to get rid of that tofu. If it's become discolored or yellow around the edges, you might want to consider getting rid of the tofu. Fresh tofu should have little to no scent, so if it has an odor, you can throw it out. Next, let's discuss soy milk. Soy milk is a milky liquid made from soybeans. It can be added to recipes 1-for-1 to replace cow's milk. So if your recipe asks for 1 cup of cow's milk, you can use 1 cup of soy milk in place of it. However, something to keep in mind that soy milk has a very different flavor than cow's milk, so your final product will take on a different profile. There are many reasons individuals choose to consume soy milk instead of cow's milk. One is animal welfare. Another is environmental impact. And lastly, individuals may have allergies or aversions to cow's milk, and so they may choose soy milk instead. If we look at the nutrient components of soy milk, here we have a 1 cup serving or 244 gram serving of soy milk itself. You'll notice it is also very low in calories relative to the amount of nutrients that you get. So with those 105 calories, we have, again, a modest amount of total fat, where most of it is unsaturated, which is going to be relatively beneficial for your health. With the total carbohydrates are going to be 12 grams. And you'll notice in this particular soy product, we have some added sugar in there so that it might taste a little more flavorful. But we still have that protein, which is going to be a nice mixture of those essential amino acids. So it's going to be a complete protein. So like we mentioned, soy milk is a plant-based, non-dairy beverage. It's low in cholesterol, pretty much containing no cholesterol, low in saturated fat, and does not contain lactose. So even individuals who are lactose intolerant can enjoy a cold glass of soy milk. Like we mentioned, it's high in protein, almost as much as cow's milk. We have carbohydrates that might vary from product to product depending upon the flavor, but it's very rich in important vitamins and minerals. And soy milk is rich in important vitamins and minerals. Calcium, vitamin D, and B12 are added in, meaning that they're fortified. Vitamin A and potassium naturally occur in the soy milk. If you were to make soy milk on your own, you'd want to get some dry soybeans, some water, and some sugar. So a very simple recipe. First, you're going to put the soybeans in a bowl and rinse them with water. Then soak the soybeans with water overnight in room temperature. Make sure all the soybeans are submerged in the water itself. The soybeans should expand in size, and after being soaked, you're going to want to drain the water out and then add enough water to cover the soybeans quickly. Then you're going to rub the soybeans between your fingers to remove the skin of those soybeans. The soybeans themselves should sink to the bottom while the skin stays at the top. So you can skim the top of the water there and get the skins out and discard them, or you can set them aside. A little tip and trick. Sometimes the skin on the soybeans may still be hard to remove even when soaked overnight, so if you need to, it's okay to soak it for an extra night. As we continue on with the recipe, we then want to drain the soybeans. Take the soybeans and you're going to blend them in with water. When you blend them, you might have to do them in 3 to 4 batches, depending upon your blender's capacity. You're going to blend the soybean and the water until it's well pureed. Then what you're going to do is strain the liquid using a cheesecloth in a bowl. The liquid is the soy milk, while the pulp, known as okara, is going to be used in the next recipe. Heat the soy milk in a pot on high heat until boiling while stirring regularly. Then you're going to reduce the heat to prevent the soy milk from bubbling over and let it simmer for another 15 minutes. After simmering, the soy milk is ready to be consumed. You can add sugar or any other sweetener if preferred. Another tip or trick, when boiling the soy milk, a skin may form at the top. This is normal and the skin can just be stirred in. No need to remove it. Now, you might want to take the okara, which is the pulp from that soy milk making, and make some okara sea burgers. So you can use that okara, some nori, miso, a small potato, onion, powder, green onion, a clove of garlic, and some vegetable broth along with cornstarch, cooking oil, and a pinch of salt. What you're going to do here is in a bowl, combine the okara, nori, miso, potato, onion powder, green onion, and garlic. Mix them thoroughly. Take some of the mixture and form it into a patty. If it doesn't break apart, then the broth does not need to be added. If it does break apart, add the broth until a patty can be formed without it breaking apart. Shape the mixture into patties, which is about 2 to 3 tablespoons of mixture in each patty. Coat the patties with cornstarch thinly. Then you're going to heat a nonstick pan on medium-high heat along with 1 tablespoon of cooking oil. Sprinkle a pinch of salt on top of the pan when it's hot. Add the okara patties, leaving at least 1-inch space between each patty. Cook it for 2 to 3 minutes per side or until it's nicely golden brown, and repeat until all the patties are cooked. Then you can enjoy your okara sea burger. So let's review the recipe. What is the purpose of soaking the soybeans? Well, the purpose of soaking the soybeans is to hydrate the soybeans. This allows for more protein, fat, and solids to be extracted into that soy milk, making the soy milk more nutrient dense. What is okara? What's that leftover pulp of soy milk made of? Well, okara contains about 50% dietary fiber, so it's going to be a relatively high fiber input, 25% protein, 10% lipid, and other nutrients, which makes it a healthy ingredient. So let's look at the macronutrient breakdown of some soy products. If we're comparing the edamame, you'll notice it has a nice mixture of carbohydrates, fats, and protein. If we look at the tofu, you'll find the same. We have a nice balance of carbohydrates, fats, and protein. So these are going to be great foods to choose if you're wanting to have a balanced vegan diet or just include some more plant proteins in your diet itself. We also have some liquid soy products like soy sauce and soy milk. With the soy sauce, like we noted here, we have 6 ounces of soy sauce. Like we said before, no one's going to be drinking a 6-ounce cup of soy sauce, but we wanted to have it side by side with soy milk so you can visually make a comparison. So the soy sauce itself contains carbohydrates, really no fats or very little fats, and then some protein. But like we mentioned, the soy sauce is very, very high in sodium, so it's something that you want to use sparingly. In contrast, soy milk is something that is going to be very nutrient dense. It has a fabulous profile with carbohydrates, fats, proteins, as well as some much needed vitamins and minerals. If we look at soy in the digestive system, you'll notice that soy is a complete plant protein product, meaning that it has these 9 essential amino acids in similar ratios. And so those soybeans themselves, that edamame, that soy milk, anything that's made with the soybean protein is going to be able to meet your protein needs. We also have fermented soy products. These are a great source of prebiotics and probiotics. And if you don't remember what those definitions mean, you can refer to some previous lectures on them or look them up in our index. With the prebiotics and probiotics, collectively, they increase good bacteria in the gut, so they make for a healthy hindgut microflora. An example of a fermented soy product would be miso. When we're looking at the nutrient composition of the soy products itself, we'll notice that there is ample amounts of fiber. But something that we may not have discussed in detail before is that fiber can be subdivided into 2 general categories, soluble fiber and insoluble fiber. Soluble fiber can get to the large intestine and actually be fermented by bacteria in that large intestine. That soluble fiber is found in and around the plant cells, and it dissolves in water and allows for slower absorption of nutrients while attracting water to that digesta itself. With respect to some benefits of soluble fiber, it actually decreases blood cholesterol. Soluble fiber pulls out bile from the body, where the body will actually need to use blood cholesterol to make more bile, therefore reducing blood cholesterol by an increased consumption of soluble fiber in your diet. Soybeans also have a lot of insoluble fiber. Insoluble fiber cannot dissolve in water, but it has other benefits. The insoluble fiber moves food faster through the digestive system, allowing for larger fecal mass, or an easier time when you're in the bathroom passing a bowel movement. Once we've digested the macronutrients, we want to absorb their component parts. With our soybeans, they also have things that are beyond just those macronutrients, such as phytate or phytic acid. With regard to absorption, this can be good if we're absorbing some of that phytate or phytic acid because it can act as an antioxidant. However, there are also some negative effects of phytate or phytic acid, such as reducing mineral bioavailability. So it may decrease the bioavailability of things like iron, zinc, magnesium, and calcium. Soybeans also have oxalate or oxalic acid. Oxalate reduces calcium bioavailability as well. So we have some soy products that have low oxalate, such as soy milk and tofu, where other soy products may have higher oxalate, such as edamame, soy nuts, and soy butter. There's a lot of discussion about whether we should be consuming soybeans. There's a lot of talk about whether we should be consuming them at all or in what quantity. One thing that we want to talk about is, should males eat soy? Sometimes people say, yes, males should not eat soy. Or some people are saying, no, that's a myth. Well, it's a myth. Males are able to eat soy. In fact, studies show that soy does not have any significant impact on male sex hormones or sperm count. One of the reasons that this myth came about is because soy contains these 2 different components that are isoflavin proteins that are considered what we call phytoestrogens, or chemicals in some plants that have some of the activities of human sex hormones such as estrogen. So they said, oh, because we have these phytoestrogens, therefore males shouldn't consume them. Well, research shows that's not the truth. That's actually a myth. If we want to discuss the chemistry a little bit more, the soy products are rich in those phytoestrogens, and phytoestrogens are naturally occurring chemical compounds that are found most abundantly in legumes like alfalfa, soy, and peanuts. These are non-steroidal forms of the hormone estrogen. So even though they're estrogen-like molecules, they can actually be beneficial to men and women. They perform similar functions to estrogen, and they can be found in soy products, but they might actually benefit individuals as far as cognitive function and cellular regeneration or cell growth. Cells positive for estrogen stimulate proliferation or growth and turnover of those neighboring cells, so they can actually be beneficial as far as metabolism is concerned as well. Additionally, isoflavones can benefit the immune system. Isoflavones have antioxidant activity, which prevents cell damage due to infection or injury. Isoflavones can aid in activation of human immune cells to combat disease, and it contains beneficial products that limit metastases and the development of cancerous tumors. This is one of the reasons that they talk about the fact that in epidemiological studies, the Asian populations have lower incidences of certain types of cancers. When we're discussing other health implications, something that comes up in conversation is hypothyroidism. And hypothyroidism is a lower than normal activity of the thyroid gland. Isoflavones are the main active component of soybeans, which can produce hormonal effects. Like I said, most of these are beneficial. However, these can also block proper enzyme function by inhibiting an enzyme called thyroid peroxidase. So, in certain situations where someone might have hypothyroidism, this inhibition may result in the inability to produce ample amounts of the thyroid hormones T3 and T4. Therefore, it could cause concern for select individuals. So, those with hypothyroidism should try to avoid soy in large quantities because it may have some implications with hormone effects. However, most individuals, it doesn't cause much of a problem at all. So let's see if you were paying attention. What is the definition of hypothyroidism? Is it A, an overactive thyroid gland, B, the inability to metabolize soy, C, an underactive thyroid gland, or D, an abundance of isoflavones? If you said C, you are correct. There are many more health implications when it comes to soy. For example, soy products can have a large impact on the gut microbiota in our body. So those hindgut microflora that live symbiotically with us tend to be pretty happy if you're consuming appropriate amounts of soy. The state of our gut microbiota can significantly affect our immunity, development, and other nutritional states. Consumption of soy can influence the amount of bifidobacteria and lactobacilli in the gut, and this can help mitigate risk for heart disease, obesity, and diabetes because we have this gut connection with our health itself. Additionally, this can help improve cognition and immune function like we discussed before. And like we had mentioned with soy, it can help decrease certain types of cholesterols like those low-density lipoproteins or those unhealthy cholesterol. With this slide, I just want you to take a moment and read some of the health implications when we compare soy milk, edamame, tofu, and soy sauce. This is a nice snapshot of the things that we had been talking about before. With respect to additional health considerations, if you're consuming raw soybeans in large quantities, this can be dangerous. So we can have a situation where it can be as small as indigestion, all the way up to illness or even organ damage if you're consuming lots of raw soybeans. Soy sauce, like we mentioned, is very high in sodium. So if you are someone struggling with hypertension and you're someone who is sodium responsive, you might want to limit the soy sauce consumption. So tofu is a soy product that contains goitrogens, and goitrogens disrupt the production of thyroid hormones like we had mentioned before. So people with thyroid conditions should limit soy intake in the form of tofu. When we're discussing soy sauce, let's talk about the microbial activity. So the flavor profile of soy sauce is determined by fermentation. We have this two-step fermentation process. We have the solid state fermentation as well as the brine fermentation. We have lactic acid bacteria that make over 34% of the bacterial population, and with that, we have several bacteria that you won't necessarily need to memorize, but I did want to point them out to you that help with this process. We also have yeast bacteria that grows later due to the low pH in the brine. And we have a list of these main types of yeast here. And koji mold is a key ingredient in soy sauce itself, and it's made up of a couple different microorganisms. The koji mold helps to, number one, break down the soybean's amino acids and peptides, and number two, convert the starch to sugar in wheat grains, giving it the nice flavor profile. As we continue on, let's talk about the microbial activity in other soy products, like soy milk. More than 50% of the microbes are lactobacillus. The best shelf life is less than 8 hours at room temperature, so you do want to make sure that if you're making your soy milk, that you get it in the refrigerator as quickly as possible. After 8 hours, the texture of the soy milk can change. A pH decrease, but increase in harmful bacteria is going to occur, so we want to make sure that we're paying attention to food safety when it comes to our soy products. If we have a situation where we're appropriately consuming soy milk, consumption of soy milk can lead to an increase in probiotics, which is actually beneficial. It increases microbes like bifidobacterium, lactobacillus, and more. Another tofu product is stinky tofu. Stinky tofu is fermented brine solution of vegetables, meats, and fresh tofu. The brine's microbiome is mainly consisting of a lactic acid bacteria, and we've got some fungi in there. Every brine's microbiome can differ, and therefore the characteristics that affect the biome vary vastly, such as geographic area, the type of tofu, the type of meats that are used, and even the types of vegetables. Many of these bacteria can be found in cheese, so you may be familiar with them from our past modules. And with soy, there are lots of new products on the market. We have meat alternatives that are quickly becoming popular. Soy products are being made in more varieties with snack options to full-out meals made with mostly soy. They can offer different flavorings and nutrient contents. One of these examples is the Kellogg's Leaf Jerky. So instead of beef jerky, it's leaf jerky. And they've got different flavor profiles like pepper and herb. This is a plant-based beef jerky with a seasoning twist. We've got the second, third, and fourth ingredients are all soybean products. And the first ingredient is water. So it's like water, soy product, soy product, soy product, making this leaf jerky. This product is entirely plant-based with a focus on working to create a more sustainable cycle of consumer goods. Leaf jerky is working to create more plant-based options to our vegan consumers. So as you learn about some of the pros, some of the cons, some of the myths, some misconceptions with regard to soy, I encourage you to stop by the Virtual Tutoring Center or stop by my office hours if you have any questions. We're here to help you clarify.